Okay, looks like we're live. Om Lokaha Samastaha Sukhi No Bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. May all investors be prosperous. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm going to give it some time here. Aptos blowing up again, up 350% or something like that in the last couple of weeks. It went from a small cap to a mid cap pretty quickly. It was about, I think, if I remember correctly, when I was researching these, it was about 500 million, and the market cap has rocketed to what, about 3.5 billion, something like that. Let's take a look and see. We're going to find out here. It was it was ranked 68 when I was researching this, and now it's ranked 28 with a market cap of, where's the market cap? About 3 billion. Yeah, for Aptos. Okay, so that happened fast. Now, why did it happen? That's the question. Well, we're going to get into that in a moment here. But first, of course, as always, the shameless self-promotion, which I feel is justified given all that I'm giving here. All of my courses, the Small Cap Superstars report, and trade size spreadsheet are all available on my website. There are some small cap superstars, several that have not yet rocketed. Aptos was one of the small cap superstars. And there are several others that have not yet been given their chance to shine. I'm sure that will happen in over the next year or two. So definitely want to check that out. It's about 45 pages long. Now, let's take a look at Aptos just to start off the day, just to do something a little bit different, because I always start off with Bitcoin. And this is incredible. Does this look like normal retail to you? Well, it could be. Sometimes market makers can push the price a couple percentage points and then just enough to nudge it. Probably should have noticed something was up when it reached this level here, this weekly level at around 10.15, and it happened in a single day. Of course, didn't even really come back to retest this single daily candle. But typically when you see this sort of a move, what happens, you can expect a pullback. You don't really know how much further it's going to go. Now today we're up, wow, that's insane, 48% at present for Aptos. It's insane. It's kind of like what you would expect in a bull market, but we're not in a bull market. Of course, one of the main reasons that I expected Aptos to be a superstar was because of its backing, because these are former Meta employees, and they have some pretty prominent VC backers, and they're obviously not going to let it fail. And so if anything, they're the ones that are really behind this pump. But we're basically in price discovery mode for Aptos because, I mean, if you exclude this wick, and if you take this upper level here, see, it's difficult. It throws off the chart when we have this wick here. But if we take this level here at around 10.15, you can see once it broke that range, that's price discovery essentially. And so when we're in this, you can throw up the fibs, you can try to make a gander at where it's going to go, but there's really no way to know for sure. And that's why when it reached this level here, I said, well, let's give it some time and see what happens, and see if it starts to consolidate, form a pattern, and break above that pattern. Now, technically, you could qualify this as a pattern. And, you know, of course, it wasn't very mature. So it wasn't really enough for me to trade off of. Now, again, it broke away, did not come back to retest. So from my perspective as a trader, and I'm not so much an aggressive trader in a situation like this, because it's a gamble. It's a guess. How much further is it going to go before it comes back down again? Will it ever come back down to these levels? Who knows, really, for sure, because we have seen these sorts of altcoins rally several hundred percentage points in a matter of a couple of weeks. If you remember correctly, Axie Infinity had a tremendous rally during the May-June accumulation, which was sort of a lot of people were bearish at that time, and there was some massive rallies happening then for various altcoins. So it's not all that out of the ordinary. And I did expect this to happen for Aptos. You never really know how it's going to unfold. So the main reason that they're saying that Aptos has rocketed, it's not really anything significant. They're saying that they're expecting, well, liquid swaps for Aptos BTC and Aptos USDC on Binance. Okay, not really a big deal, but they're saying so a 3-part upgrade is set to be complete around end of Q1, which will slash gas fees and improve the efficiency of the network. Well, the network really, I mean, it hasn't been very efficient so far, and this is anticipating something that's months away, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. They're saying that flurry of development it is anticipated. Again, expectations building that a flood of NFT projects could hit the market soon. Okay, all of this is speculation, and if you look at just the general, just do a basic search for Aptos crypto, and what you'll notice is who's covering this right now. We just look at news. The Motley Fool, CoinDesk, Yahoo, all these major media outlets are covering Aptos right now, and it's sort of, it gives reason for suspicion. It gives reason for, again, it has the VC backing, and so we have to expect that yes, of course it's manipulated, because they're manipulating the sentiment right now for it to continue to go higher. And you see these rockets here. Be careful here, okay? And you can see what's happening just in this 4-hour candle here, or let's just say the last hour. Notice what's happening here, okay? I would definitely not be taking a long here. 48% in a day after a massive move to the upside. Let this be a case study, because there's a lot of traders early on in their career and they start to jump on board these types of trends. And this is where most pros are just going to sit this out and wait and see. Okay. So 407% since January. Now, congrats if you got in on this. Even though I was actually promoting this as of the end of last year, so before all of this move, I did not accumulate Aptos because I did not get the signal from the rest of the market to begin accumulation in earnest. So my stance on this is I'm not going to long this. If it comes back down to this level here, it may come all the way back down here, consolidate. Okay, maybe we get a retest, and then we have some normal price action to go off of. But we don't have much in the way of previous levels. This would be a long trigger potentially, but I personally wouldn't long it here. I'd actually be looking for a breakdown from here, and then I'd be looking to short it down to here, which would be about 13, and then I'd be looking to short it all the way down to here around 1166. Those would be minimum targets, and then we're looking to go all the way back down to this 1020 level. I wouldn't be surprised to see it retest this weekly level here at some point or another. So just my 2 cents on Aptos. There's not really a very strong fundamental reason for it to be pumping right now. This is definitely, it's one of those pumps that you see a lot of the times when we see these altcoins start to pop off. It is giving room, however, it's giving us an indication. Well, this is interesting because Bitcoin now is starting to potentially break out again as we speak. So maybe we should step back from Aptos for a minute and take a look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, this last 10-minute candle, actually, as I started, okay, that's interesting. So we have a 10-minute candle breaking to the upper boundary of this resistance level here. It came up with some force. So it's possible that actually Bitcoin is going to break out here. Because there was another pullback. I did short this and I profited off of this, but I exited. First take profit hit right around the bottom of this wick here, and then exited around 22,500 because I anticipated more of a pushback up, especially seeing what was happening with the stock market. Stock market S&P did sell off, but then rocketed back up again. Now, I'm expecting this to be sort of all over the place this week because of earnings reports. I'm not really sure what's going on with various stocks right now. I'm sure that there's been some ups and downs there, but I'm careful. I'm cautious. I'm definitely seeing more upside in the next week or so leading into the FOMC. So I'm not going to fade this here, especially when you see a move like this where you see one big strong candle here on the 10-minute that moving straight up without a very large rejection wick. And so we're sort of flirting with this boundary. It may consolidate here for a time and then break out to the upside. So a breakout trader would be looking to see here if there is another strong candle that breaks out above here and dropping down now at this point maybe to the lower time frames to the 5-minute and seeing if we get another candle that follows some follow through on this as opposed to an immediate rejection back down again. But the fact that it did this shortly after stocks closed with the Dixie down again today is probably I'm saying I'd be leaning toward more bullishness here in the next couple of days, and especially since we're seeing Optimism and Aptos pumping so much here. Optimism is up 22.5% today, and I was going to review that. I will do that in a moment here, but it's just that now we're seeing some action with Ethereum as well. Ethereum has just broken back above this channel here, and it looks like it also it's flirting with more upside here. So this is significant as well because this level, you can see this previous range here broke down and failed to break down further from here, found some support, and then it was flirting with a long here, but it blasted off in a 5-minute candle here, and so kind of skipped out on that one. But now it's holding above here. Let's see if it can hold above 1600. So if Ethereum can hold above 1600, I actually might be more prone to take a long on Ethereum over Bitcoin, only because if you look at the ETH-BTC chart, I know this is a lot of information, but bear with me here. If you look at the ETH-BTC chart, there has been a lot of sell-off here, and now it looks to be wanting to come back to revert back to the mean. So it's coming back here and maybe makes another push up here. I wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum really rallies strong here because there was a strong sell-off. I'm not sure exactly why Ethereum sold off more than Bitcoin, but it did. It was actually a healthy pullback amidst this larger trend here. So short term, I think it's quite possible that Ethereum could push up higher. Bitcoin could push up higher. In Ethereum's case, I wouldn't be surprised to see it consolidate here and then break back above the weekly open, which was around 1626, and then come back up and retest this once again, 1675. Maybe we get a range here that forms and it starts to chop in between here and then ultimately breaks out to the upside. That wouldn't surprise me here. But I'd be looking for potentially taking a long at around 16 after it clears this 1600 level. Again, not just one hourly candle is going to give us the confirmation on this. You need to see some sustained price action above. Now, it could just tear straight through, in which case that's fine if it wants to do that. But I'd be looking to see how it holds above this level here and see if there's a pattern that forms. This is the basics of price action trading. If it starts to form a pattern here and we have something where we can see, okay, now we get a strong breakout above this level, then we can confidently enter a long position. Okay, this is not financial advice, of course, none of this is. But Ethereum, I would be more prone to take a long on Ethereum than Bitcoin. Although I do believe that Bitcoin could easily rally to previous levels that we mentioned here. Now, let's just look at Bitcoin on the daily chart first. I want to circle back to the alts. I want to circle back to Optimism. I covered Aptos pretty well, but I want to circle back and look at some of these alts and see what they're doing. Bitcoin on the daily looks like this is obvious resistance. Hasn't really had strong pullbacks. You can see that every single time it's tried to pull back, there's been these rejection wicks down here. And this is what you would call bullish pressure to the upside. How much more upside is debatable? That's the question here. These are not bull flags, but bullish rectangles here in each case. So what would be the next target? How much higher can it push up from here? Let's just look at the most immediate levels, and you could see where would obvious resistance be here. It's 24,300 would be the next obvious level of resistance for Bitcoin if it can break above this 23,300 level with some strength. And all it really takes is one 10-minute candle to give us that indication. Of course, it's not, so maybe not. We'll see. So it breaks above, and we're looking at 24,300, and then the next target would be 25,200. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin started to push up strong again in the coming days. I also wouldn't be surprised if it just continued to consolidate here for a while in this range here before breaking above, and then broke above with some conviction and pushed not just to here, but actually pushed a little bit higher, somewhere 25,500 or so, spiked up there, and then got back inside. Now, in this case, I've been preparing you all for this scenario. This would be the ultimate short trigger for me, because you have the deviation of all of this, the deviation of this range here, right, back inside. So it might pull a similar pattern to what we saw here, but the reversal of that, of course, it could play out over several days. In this case, it took more than a week here, a couple of weeks actually. So we could see another deviation up above this larger range here and then back inside, in which case I'd say, okay, short it back at least to the mid, at least down to 20,000, and then all the way back down potentially to somewhere between 18,600 and 15,400. But that's more of the macro, the longer term picture, or sorry, midterm being over the next month or two. So let's see, I'm going to scroll up here. Okay, chat is working. Hi, Adam and Tombstone and Peter from Denmark. Cool. Like it over there. Kanto, Tesla beat on earnings. Okay, that's cool. Let's see what Tesla is doing right now. What Tesla did today. It's up after hours. I would expect some resistance. I don't know if I'm really supposed to be talking about this, but I don't really care. I would expect some resistance on Tesla. I was actually buying Tesla around 108 and sold off here, expecting some resistance around 154, and we'll see how that plays out. But Tesla, Amazon, Apple have been carrying the S&P 500 for the last week or so, so that's going to have an influence on cryptocurrency. Let's circle back to Optimism. Are there any questions so far about anything that I've covered? Does this all make sense to you? This was an Optimism. This was a short that I took yesterday on Optimism, and it actually, even though it doesn't look like it, it played out really nicely. I shorted it around 215. Stop was up here, and then first take profit, second take profit. It didn't quite make it to the second, but I exited out completely at around 190, around $2 after the first take profit hit. So, and this was a 10x trade, so had a decent return on that. It wasn't a big trade. I don't feel really strong conviction on these altcoins, but I will occasionally take a small trade. So let's get rid of that. I'm gonna have to add that to the journal. And then you see what happened next. Now, what was the trigger for me to exit this short? I'll show you. It was this here. You see that? 4 hours, 4 wicks here. I think I got out after the third. You see this after a pretty significant sell-off, close to an area of support. Where would that be? Well, obviously it's here, right? So that's obviously going to be support. Now it's already showing that there's there's some absorption happening is what that's indicating to me. And so I exited completely here, and lo and behold, is shot back all the way back up again to the top and above this range here. Now, actually, this is kind of curious because it's back inside, up 23% today, back inside. Now, we'll see what happens, but I would be on the lookout here for a breakdown at some point, and maybe it gets back inside and then it breaks down. There's your short trigger back down to the mid, which would be around 230 here, and then back all the way down to 218, 219. Does that make sense to you all? You guys need to comment more because I am losing confidence in the YouTube chat because every time it seems like it starts out and it's working and then it doesn't work. I only get to see the first like 5 or 6 comments in the chat, and I'm not really sure if you guys are even commenting or what's that about. The last one I have is Tesla beat on earnings. When I scroll up, it's just the weirdest chat. I don't understand why it's doing that, but yeah, maybe it's my browser. I mean, I'm using Brave browser. I don't know if that's affecting it at all, but so not looking to take a long here. Actually, it's possible. I mean, again, we're also with Optimism, we're in price discovery here, right? It's uncharted waters. But that's a pretty mighty green candle. I don't like to, and then you have all these wicks here. I don't like to take a long in this sort of a situation. But those of you that maybe are a little bit bolder, if it holds here, if it really holds here, we get a daily close above this 244, then that could be a long trigger. Could be. Just not a trade that I'm willing to take right now. I'd be more prone to want to short this down. So sand has actually also been performing. Wow, it did exactly what we charted out on Wednesday. It pulled back. It pulled back to here, and look at that. What do you know? Oh, guess what? It just gave us a long trigger. There it is. So here was the pullback we were expecting, and there's the deviation beneath this range, beneath this boundary here, back above. Now, this is potentially a long trigger for sand. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty strong here, this breakout. Maybe it comes back down to retest. Wow, that's crazy. It literally played out exactly how I was hoping it would, but missed that. If I would have maybe wanted to enter here. But let's see, maybe it pulls back and retests and then shoots up again. I know it looks messy, but I'm wondering if you all can see that. It's kind of interesting to leave these up sometimes because it actually does pull back the way you expect it to. It helps to boost the confidence. And we were targeting, where was I targeting on that? Well, this would be initial target here, 84 cents, and then looking to go potentially much higher from there. Matic has been strong today as well, which is expected because of Ethereum's. Now Ethereum is, it's holding above 1600. So Matic looks like it wants to push all the way back up to the top of this range at minimum. That's 102. But I wouldn't enter here. Maybe here would have been nice. Okay, now what was the entry trigger for this? I don't really like to trade in this sort of a situation because you see how high this is in the range where it actually made a pattern that we could work with. It was already getting close to the mid, and then you see it did break above and then actually came and retested. This would have been your entry. This would have been a decent entry here, but then it's not the best risk to reward because you're looking at targeting maybe up here, about 102. So you get some profit off of it, but I try and look for the highest R multiples that there are. So XRP also, all the alts really look like they're starting to break out again. And Bitcoin is leading the pack right now. Wow, this is, oh God, it's happening as I'm live, of course. Okay, if I pause to trade, then you'll know. Uh, I'll share as much as I can. It's really hard to trade and talk at the same time. I don't know if you've ever tried it before, but yeah, it's breaking out now. They're really pushing it. They really want to push it today. Two 5-minute candles. As I'm talking, this is happening. Wow, look at this. Look at it move. I'm not going to chase this. I'm not going to chase this right now, but wow, this is pretty incredible to see. And this has happened like a couple of times. These last couple of lives, it's like the timing on this. I don't know. We'll see if we get a strong rejection. If not, then the targets I just mentioned are perfectly valid for Bitcoin. Now, I had a long at 16,800, and I learned, I'm constantly reminded that it's always helpful if you have a long and you feel really good about that long. Even if you are expecting somewhat of a pullback, it's always really helpful to keep at least some of that open and to trail the stops. And you don't want to trail them too closely either, because of a situation like this where it just continued and it didn't really pull back in the way that you would expect it to. And so if you get into a position like this and you have some decent profit, this is where a lot of traders just want to snatch profits, close their positions out. But it can be more beneficial, even if let's say 4 out of 5 times you get stopped out on that last little bit, that last chunk, maybe 25% of the trade. If that 5th time it just continues up, you know, it would have continued from that 18,200 level for me, that long position. It would have, I got out somewhere over here, it would have continued to rise another 30% from there. That just that 25%, and that would have been a substantial trade. Could have kept that running the whole time. So it's always a good idea to keep some running and trail the stops because you never really know. So it's giving us a pretty clear breakout right now. I'm on the fence whether I want to long this here. I wasn't expecting it today. We'll see what happens here in over the next 20 minutes or so. This is where I start to really drop down on the lower time frames and see, okay, what's it doing on the 10-minute? What's it doing on the 5-minute? This is let's identify the top of this. I don't know why I don't have this labeled here, but I'm going to actually look at the 4H and see, and let's get rid of this here. We went over this trade setup and it's happening right now. So I'm going to mark this as the top of this range here. And then we're looking at this down move before the up move. That would be sort of the bottom of the range. So we're breaking out now. 45 seconds left in this candle. Pretty strong candle. Maybe it comes back to retest here in the next hour or so, over the course of the next hour. If it can hold above 23,300 over the next couple of hours, then next target would be 24,300, and then 25, maybe 25,200, and then see if it deviates above, let the rest ride out and see if it continues from there. But this is obviously a continuation signal. And it's kind of curious because it's happening. Stocks did have some nice reversals today. They were down initially. Many people are saying, well, look at this trend line that's broken for the S&P 500. You see this here, it broke this diagonal, and it did actually just come back and retest. It could continue to the upside, but that doesn't necessarily mean the end of all bearishness. It's just still keep in mind that we're in a larger range here right now. So resistance is going to be at 4,100 and then up at 4180, 4170. If it can push up back up there, I would be more likely to believe that we're going to see more consolidation in this zone here, and then ultimately it could break down from here. So That's why I'd be careful with taking longs at this point, at this stage in the game. We saw this last time where it pushed up. When did that happen? The last time it really pushed up and then got crushed down, heading into, I think it was an FOMC. It seems like it was so long ago. And I think they did that in like a couple of hours. Yeah, it was this here. And really pushed it up. And we see the swing fail here. Pushed it up into this zone here, into this supply zone, and then crushed it down again. And so I'm sort of anticipating that there'll be a repeat of that at this point. Yeah, it's still going. I mean, you could, yeah, aggressive traders would long here, would enter long here. I don't want to take an entry here. I like to get the good entries. If I miss a good entry, that's fine. I don't really care. There'll be other opportunities. Maybe, yeah, we'll see what happens here. Up almost 5% now. Yeah, this is tricky. Okay, so AVAX now also breaking out. All of these are breaking out now. And the question is, which ones are giving us the best risk reward here? Wow, Aptos now 50%. Optimism now 25%. Solana's up almost 10% today. This is where the FOMO starts to kick in, right, folks? This is where you start feeling some intense FOMO, thinking, oh, I missed the move. Well, not necessarily. And there's always more waves in the ocean. There's always going to be more opportunities. See, like, would you long sand here, knowing that it's coming up against this level here, which I haven't really labeled this, but it's coming into some resistance here. That's pretty clear. Maybe it breaks back into it and it consolidates and then clears above here. And in that case, you could see here it is right here. So it clears above 78 with some conviction. Then that could be a long trigger for sand. It's just when you think that the alts are starting to look a little bit tired, we get this movement. Now, Litecoin also, it actually did spike up to this 93 level. And I said that Litecoin would most likely move up. Here's the mid, but if we look at the potential for Litecoin to really pump here is pretty strong. It could come all the way up to this 106 level here. It's been testing this level right around 91.50 on several. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. It's failed to break down. It's holding above this diagonal trend line. I would say that Litecoin is getting ready to break out as well. And Litecoin is, of course, already up 5% today. Oh, wait a minute. Now the chat came back. Okay, hold on a second. I'm getting more in the chat now. Okay. That's so weird. I have to like scroll up and down to see this. I'm just gonna read over this quickly. 𝐜𝐭. I haven't heard of 𝐜𝐭. No retest of 19,500. Yeah, there was. I'm glad I exited my shorts. I got some decent profits off of that. I kind of saw it coming. When you don't really get a strong sell-off here, they're really tearing the bears to pieces right now. This is why it's good to be neutral whenever you can. It's good to be neutral as much as possible. It's fun to watch, right? It's more fun when you're in the trade before it happens, but that's how it goes. What is 𝐜𝐭? I've never heard of this. Yeah, I mean, how much is this up today? 63%. I'm sure there's others that are up 60, 70% today. I'll look at Rune in a minute, Terrence. I haven't been paying close attention to Rune, but I'm sure it's also probably coming back strong. Yeah, I don't know about this. I mean, I definitely wouldn't long this. I don't, this is the no trade chart for me. I don't trade these charts. I don't know what the market cap of this. Let's look and see what the market cap of Kanto is. 145 million. It's ranked 212. I don't usually trade these. We don't have any sort of an entry. I mean, again, it's a gamble. Like, where would have been a good place to enter this when it cleared this level here? When it cleared here and then retested twice, here would have been a sensible entry. But at this point, it's either going to go really strong up or really strong down. So let's focus on the bigger alts. AVAX, I did look at Litecoin. Let's look at AVAX now and see. Those were some short setups from yesterday that didn't pan out. Also looks really bullish here. I did actually was anticipating that it would push up to this level here, which is around 1977. It's back inside. Might consider a long on this, actually. Let's see if we can get a little, yeah, it's not pulling back. Bitcoin's not pulling back. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a reprieve here that would give some opportunity for entry. It might not pull back here. So if it did come back at this point and hold above, then this would be a long trigger. This could already be a long trigger because it did deviate from this range, and now we're getting a strong close above, back above. Let me delete these now because they're just going to confuse you. We did get the strong close back above the 1777, and now we'll see what it does from here. If it can hold this, there is a little bit of some gray area here. I think it's going to hold and probably push up higher. I just don't have I feel a little bit uneasy about entering along. I don't like it when Bitcoin does this because it can, we have seen this where it can really shoot up strong and it can continue. It did that here. It did that down here. It's done that a couple of times already in this run. It can continue, but it could also get crushed back down into this range. So I want to wait and see what happens. And I want to wait and see what happens. Wow, Ethereum, yeah, just did it. It just kept going. Okay, so Ethereum's now above the weekly open as well. So not ideal for me. Not an ideal. These aren't giving me ideal entries. It's moving too fast. So maybe it shoots all the way up to the top of this range again. I'm fine sitting this out. If it does come all the way back up to 1675, we know where to enter. We know that it just needs to hold here. However it interacts here, if it holds here, then longing it up. And let's look at targets to the upside for Ethereum, which seems like we have to keep recreating this, right? So 1727 initial target, and then 1784, and then we're looking at if it can get back above here. I'm skeptical it's going to get above 1785 in this run, but you never know. We'd have to be we have to plan for anything. So we're looking at 1870, and then it could come all the way up to this level here. This is a quarterly level, I believe, at 2031. But just in the short term, I'd be looking to play this range between 1784 and 1675. I don't really care what it does here. If it pumps all the way up here and then rejects, then that's a sign we're going to consolidate here between 1676 and 1600. Always zoom out and see, you know, it in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that big of a deal here. If it wants to hover in the middle of this range, that's fine. But it just needs to settle down and start to give us something to work with. Otherwise, it could just whipsaw, and this is how you get really chopped up. And that's the lesson that I've learned. Notice what's happening right now. Bitcoin now pulling, it just pulled all the way back down. This is happening really quickly, right? So that was a 10-minute on the 5-minute chart. We're looking at two 5-minute candles. Over the last 10 minutes, Bitcoin has gone from 23,800 to 23,200. It's all over the place. Hopefully it settles down closer to this range boundary that I have drawn here. These are the levels where I'm willing to interact. And maybe it doesn't. That's fine. I don't really care either way, but I don't like this irrational price action. We'll see what happens here. Let me see if I can get back to these comments. Yeah, glad you guys could turn up for the live. I'm trying to do it in a time when I feel like it's most helpful and there's going to be the most people that are able to tune in. It's also helpful if we get in a little bit after stocks close, because there's a lot of shifting around that happens in the last hour of the US stock market. So now it's really kind of all over the place. We'll see. I don't like that 10-minute sell off there. Yeah, it's all over the place. You got to know when to sit it out. You know, when it's too rich for my blood right now. This like could go either way, to be honest. It could get back inside the range and you have some clarity and you feel, you know, you can size up and you have your defined risk. Like right now, where would you put your stop? You want to put your stop somewhere in here, but then what happens if it gets back inside the range? Then you're just going to get stopped out. So we'll see. I don't like this candle so far. There's some uncertainty in both directions. It needs to settle. Definitely needs to settle down. Let's take a look at Rune while Bitcoin tries to make up its mind. We're back in a pretty big range here. It's trying to push back up into this, above this $1.79 mark here. And it's made several attempts so far that have failed. I think it will ultimately get back inside, in which case we're looking at some more targets to the upside. It needs to consolidate above this current level here, this $1.78, and then break out, and then that would be a long trigger, initially targeting around $2. Okay, and then targeting around, conservative target somewhere around 218 here. We have this little ledge here, but then probably somewhere up around 250 for Rune, and then that would be probably my final take profit if it did get. I mean, that is a significant move, even though it doesn't seem like it. From here, we're looking at that's a 37% move, which, you know, I mean, it wouldn't surprise any of us at this point because of what the other altcoins are doing. But Rune, I'm not looking to fade this here, but it needs to consolidate above here some more and show some strength above this level here. So that'd be what I'd be looking at for Rune. I hope that's helpful for you. Was it Terrence that was asking? Canada stopped rate hikes. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, there's so much going on here. Are there any other charts that you all want me to cover while we're kind of waiting in the wings for Bitcoin? I can look at Link and see what that's doing. This was from the other live stream, assuming that it was able to break out here, which it looks like looks kind of messy right now. I don't like all this chop in here. But given the context for the rest of the market, like if Ethereum, again, if Ethereum holds above 1600, I think that's the green light for a lot of alts to just continue to run up. So I'd be watching this level carefully. I should say, I will be watching the 1600 level very carefully for Ethereum. And then if it can consolidate and hold, then I would say that that gives a lot of the alts, including Link and AVAX and Litecoin and Atom and XRP, that gives them the green light to continue to push higher. Now, the reason that I titled this about Aptos and Optimism is because they were sort of giving an early signal when smart money pumps these before the rest of the market. It's a sign they know something that we don't, basically. And they did in this case. They knew something that we didn't know. So they pushed it pretty strong, and then Bitcoin, Ethereum started to push. So this is also a sign that potentially there's going to be more upside for many of these altcoins. And Link's been sort of hovering around the $7 mark. So would it surprise you if it pushed higher after not one but two sell-offs here where it sort of held? And again, you see this is a healthy uptrend. It's holding above this diagonal here. And so this could be a possible entry for Link. Now, but targets the upside initially with conservative target 725. And then maybe we're looking at somewhere in the mid here, 750. And then all the way up to 777 for Link. And it could push higher than that. It could come up back above here. But remember that just like with Bitcoin, just like with Ethereum, this was a pretty big deviation. And we're looking at, even though it looks, there's a lot of chop in here, this is the major range that we're working with. And we're sort of still in the bottom quadrant of this range. So it's not unrealistic for Link to push up to 775. It could even push all the way up to $8.15 here, given that we hold above 1600 for Ethereum. Is that making sense? I know there's a lot of information in this stream. I'm trying to process it all myself while there's, now Bitcoin's selling off. So this is why. See, this is why I didn't jump in on this breakout, right? This is why you have to be really careful. Because if we get a close back inside here beneath 23,286, then that could give us a short trigger. Either way, I want to see it settle. I want to see it settle and give something either here or here, okay? I don't want to see this. I don't like that. That's not fun for traders. That's manipulation. And they say, oh, there's no manipulation. The market cap's so big. You're out of your mind. I mean, it's a 500, what are we at? Like $500 billion for Bitcoin, and that can't be manipulated? Are you kidding me? I mean, look at how much money is in the stock market. Look at how many trillions of dollars is in Forex, and tell me that you can't manipulate Bitcoin. Bitcoin's like a little baby compared to a lot of these stocks, okay? I mean, I think, what is Apple's market cap? I think it's like a couple trillion. Apple's market cap is way bigger than Bitcoin. Just going to look this up here. About 2 trillion, okay? So that's what, 4 times the size of Bitcoin. Apple, just Apple. I mean, and we're looking at a whole, like a global asset class here. And you're telling me that it can't be manipulated? I mean, geez, I don't know. I just can't get over that one. I've been hearing that on crypto Twitter. I'm just like, this is absurd. Like, do you know how much money there is in the world, and how small, this is a drop in the bucket. So I don't know. We still don't have clarity on this. And it may not come while I'm still streaming here, but I would be cautious here. I don't think that we're going to have a massive sell-off, but I just wouldn't be surprised, especially on this first attempt, that this becomes a deviation, and then we're back inside, and then it comes all the way back down again and retests, and maybe even drops low or deviates below here and then gets back inside. And there would definitely be a strong long trigger for Bitcoin. None of the sell-offs really have been more than about 5% total. So it doesn't have to come down more than that. It doesn't have to do anything. It's just that it might be flirting with this weekly open for the next couple of days. So it doesn't have to continue higher from here. Just because we had this one single candle that, that was most of that price action happened in 2 10-minute candles. Okay. And then now you see these 10-minute candles. I don't like that. That doesn't give traders or investors confidence that Bitcoin's going to push higher. I mean, dumb money's probably trying to go long here, but this is not a long trigger. That first initial break, and this is where you get to learn how to control your impulses and not dive into these things right away. Just sit and wait and keep the FOMO in check. Chew some gum if you have to, or do some push-ups. That's what I do. I mean, you've got to have your coping mechanisms for when the FOMO kicks in. I think I did cover AVAX, Tabor, earlier in the stream. Yeah, I covered AVAX. I like the look of it. Just go back and watch it later. Matic, I covered. XRP, I didn't really cover XRP. We can look at XRP. Why do I have this drawn? Okay, this is apparently a mid, but where is the quarterly level here? No, doesn't make sense. I don't know why I have that there. Well, it looks important because there's some resistance here, multiple occasions, support, broke through, resistance, and now we're in the mid of something. I thought it was maybe this larger quarterly range, but that doesn't really make sense. Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I'm losing myself on this chart right now, but I think that XRP is probably going to push higher as well, and ultimately will come up to retest initially, maybe find some resistance at 40.446, and then if it can push back above, then that's a really strong continuation signal for XRP. And the next target would be around 0.48, and then all the way up to this monthly level here, which is around 51 cents. So I think I mentioned this in the last stream. I think 50 cents is definitely a higher probability for XRP. Not, so it's just how tight of a stop do you want to have? If let's just say that I was considering taking a long position here, where would my stop be? Probably somewhere, if I wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, I could put it somewhere down here, around 5.5, 6%. I think that having looser stops on alts right now is a good idea. Not financial advice, but for me, it's a good idea. I know that it messes with your risk reward, but you just never know when you're going to get those wicks. I had one on XRP, it stopped me out, and then I ended up pushing up to my take profit levels. This was the wick that stopped me out on XRP. And I only had like a 3% stop on this. Probably would have been just fine if I'd have had double the stop loss on that. Or even a little bit more, even a 5% stop loss. So that's another reason why I don't really like trading the exotic alts, because if I've defined my risk with Bitcoin, if I know that, okay, this is the level, beneath this level, I'm out, then I could get away with sometimes a 1 or 2% stop and have a multiple R trade. And even if I'm only right 2 out of 10 times or 3 out of 10 times, I still end up profiting. So I know my levels here, and I know that Bitcoin is Bitcoin is the least manipulated of all of cryptocurrencies because it has the highest market cap, and Ethereum is second. So that's how, in times of uncertainty, I revert back to the majors, and the majors are Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, AVAX, the highest market caps. So always remember that. Right now, what are we doing? What are you going to do, Bitcoin? I don't like this candle. If it closes anywhere over here, I would say more likely back inside this range. Is there any real fundamental reason for Bitcoin to be doing this right now? The news isn't probably going to tell me much of anything. Someone owes $21 million to Genesis. Okay. There's so much noise right now in cryptocurrency and in the markets in general, and I think it's by design. You just have to focus on the charts. And right now, the dollar index, we haven't really looked at this today, but it is consolidating, but it is also pushing slightly further down. The dollar could go all the way down to 100. It could go sub 100. And if it gets down below this 101, then I would say for sure Bitcoin's going to 24, 25K. Absolutely for certain it will. But I'm waiting to see when it breaks back above this range here. When it finally, let's say if it does come back down here, once it gets back above here and shows some strength, that would be a short trigger for all of cryptocurrency, in my humble opinion, and also for the major stock indices and all of that. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'd be waiting for. But this takes time. This could take another week or so. I'm expecting somewhere early February, maybe right around the 1st, right after the FOMC, the dollar could really start to reverse quickly. Be on the lookout for that. We want to try to catch the extremes, not try and trade when it's close to the extremes. This is my strategy as a trader, and so that's why I was comfortable and confident longing down at 16. I took a spot position down around 16.5, 16,600 because it was an extreme and it was showing signs that it wanted to bottom there. It was giving some support. And so catching it there is much better and much higher profit margin there than trying to catch it here and ride it to where? To 24, 25K. You can still profit. You know, you could have some tight stops and have some decent profits and scalp it, but it's not as much, definitely not a positional play at this point. Now, on the other hand, if it does come back up, and I showed you it comes back above here, spikes above this 25K, 25,500, whatever, gets back inside, there's your positional short. And that's when we're looking to short it at least back to the mid and then further down from there. So thank you, Polygon. I appreciate that. All the positive, the kind words are really helpful for me right now. I have been having some health stuff going on, and I'm not so good about getting treatment for things, and I'm actually gonna receive some treatments today. Mostly just been low energy and feeling like kind of like a lingering virus, kind of feels like the long haul, whatever they call it. And I'm really a healthy guy. I take really good care of myself, but it's also interferes with like my mental capacity and ability to make videos. It's actually surprising that I'm as clear as I am right now because I am in some pain. Just general fatigue and not just, just trying to push through it, but also recognizing that I need to sometimes, get some medicine and take care of myself in other ways than just working out and doing yoga and meditation and eating right and all of that. Sometimes you actually have to like see a doctor, naturopath or whatever. So not to digress too much. I try to stay on point with crypto, but it's good to be they say that when everything gets easy, that's when you know that you're in alignment. And yesterday I took some trades and they just worked out beautifully. And I really was not expecting the setups to present themselves, but they did. And I shorted ETH. I'll show you the short, just we can use this as a case study. I shorted ETH right here at 1619. Had a stop up above here, this quarterly level here. So it was a wider stop than maybe I'm used to using, but it was breaking beneath a diagonal that I had drawn, which I don't always rely on these, but it was showing some, I can't even remember at this point, but it was breaking down and I shorted it down First take profit here, second was here. And actually, this is where it's really helpful to have take profits. And this is why I wanted to give you this example here, because it hit the second take profit, even though on this index chart, it didn't actually reach down to it. On the _MEXC platform where I was doing the trade, it actually did wick down to that level. Sometimes you catch that wick and then you're out of the trade and it pushes back the other way. So I had just a perfect trade on Ethereum yesterday before it reversed. And now you could see if I'd have just held on to that trade and not set take profit levels and not been clearly defining where am I going to be getting out of this, then what would have happened? It would have completely round tripped and I'd be back at break even now. And how many times has that happened? I know that for me, I can raise my hand and say I've experienced this probably well over a couple dozen times, probably more than that. I just don't want to admit it. But when you set the take profit, sometimes you think, wow, part of me was thinking yesterday, this could go a lot lower. And yeah, of course it could go a lot lower after you see these candles here. But what's the worst thing? What's the worst thing that happens is it hits your take profits and then it does continue lower, but then you have maybe another opportunity to get in if it starts to consolidate somewhere down here. We see it, we tend to, early on as in trading, you tend to think in absolutes and think that, no, it needs to get down all the way down to this level here, 1470 or whatever. No, it doesn't have to do that. And in fact, when we see, this is why I've been emphasizing in a stronger trending market, you don't want to, if you're going to have counter trend trades, then they should be short and sweet. And you should be taking profits sooner, because this is what can happen if you don't. So this is why I wanted to bring up this example for you all. And you can see, again, I did mention this in a few videos, but it's helpful to mark out the trades, use whatever markers you can. I like these long and short positions on TradingView. It's definitely worth investing in the premium TradingView, even just to be able to throw up some extra indicators and see, see the 1 minute and see more price action. But keeping these trades, a record of these trades, so I can make this disappear here, I can bring it back again, and I can record what happened in the trade in my trading journal, which I have right here, which I'm planning to do this after we get off here. It's celebrating the good trades, not just bashing yourself when you have a bad trade. 10 pass ozone. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I'm actually going to an IV clinic today, and I would love to hear your feedback on this, because I had some friends that have done that, the 10 pass ozone, to give the body a reset. I was considering doing an NAD plus, and maybe adding some other things. But yeah, curious if any of you have done that, have experimented with the IV therapy, because I've never been. I'm going to try that today. There was a friend that does the Rife machine, and some friends have done it and report on that. I'm actually going for both of those today, so I get to celebrate myself for once. So I don't know if any of this has been helpful for you all. I'm running my mouth in a way, but I'm trying to be really clear. And for me, it's just, this is how I think. So I don't really know if it's helpful until you guys tell me. If you need clarity on something, then I think a lot of traders really struggle with translating what they're thinking. And I'm fortunate enough to have a background in communication and writing and speaking. So I think that really helps. But there's always a lot of things that I feel like maybe I could express that more clearly. So that's where it does help me to receive feedback. And I always appreciate the support that I get, and the likes do help. So if you're still watching this and you enjoy this and you find it inspirational, then like the video, because it does put it out there to more people. I just finished a video that is totally different than crypto, and it's more of a vlog, which I've never really done a vlog before, but it came out really good, I think. And I spent about a week working on it, kind of at a slower pace, and went out into nature and filmed some things here on Maui, and it came out really nice. So I'd be love to hear your feedback. I'm going to schedule that to go out tomorrow morning, because um, I like to create content apart from crypto, and I don't necessarily want to do it on other channels because it just complicates everything. And I feel like it is all related. I'm just kind of going through a identity shift right now with the channel. So I appreciate those of you that have stuck with my channel, and that have been just a continued source of support. It's been really nice to have that, and it's nice to go through a bear market because you learn who your true supporters are. And I've never been through a bear market while public, as a content creator, influencer, whatever you want to call it. It's always been sort of in private, so it's been hard in that way, in that regard, but it's also made me a lot stronger and made me more resilient when it comes to like responding to criticism. So awesome. Yeah, that's good to happy to hear that. So I think that pretty much covers it. Solana, I didn't really cover Solana. Did I? Can't even remember now. Solana could also push a lot higher here, but I would just be careful. Even though it's kind of cleared this range here. Yeah, I don't really feel this is the zone that this shaded zone, this supply. This is this $28 I said was probably a reasonable target for Solana. But I would actually feel a lot more confident if it did come back down. It may not, but if it did come back down to 21, 22, and then we get a trigger there, I like to get the extremes, right? The extremes of these ranges. So this would be an extreme down here, and then you've got your take profits. Oh, I labeled it here too. Okay, so take profit here, 23.20, and then 24.50, and then maybe you could target 26, and then you could target all the way up to 28. But just going and shooting straight for 28 from here just isn't something that really, like, from a like probabilities, it just doesn't feel good for me. Now, it could very well do that, but I just don't, it doesn't feel like a good trade for me right now. So I don't have a whole, let's see, I'll take a look at my other list here. I actually haven't looked at Dogecoin in a while. Dogecoin, we're pushing close to the top of this range here. So again, I don't really see a whole lot of, and it's kind of choppy. Yeah, I don't really see a trade here that I would want to take in either direction. We're kind of in the middle of this chop, and even if it did clear, well, there's going to be some resistance at 0.095. And then from there, I might be looking to short it down if it deviated back above. Again, it's all, context is everything, but if it did get back above here and then it started to come back inside, well, then we're looking at maybe shorting it down all the way down to the mid here, which is probably somewhere around 0.082, and then all the way down to this weekly level, 0.07. But yeah, it's kind of like nearing the top. It's not quite at the extreme yet. That's where I don't really like that. Same with Bitcoin, same with Ethereum. Like, it's getting closer to the extreme levels where I'd be looking to do business. Haven't looked at ADA either. ADA looks like it wants to get back inside this 0.338. Now, ADA, I might, oh, yeah, I don't know. I could push up here. It wouldn't surprise me if it pushed up to 40 cents. And then we're looking at 433 for ADA. That would kind of make sense if Ethereum and Bitcoin continued higher. but wait for the trigger from Ethereum. And yeah, it's kind of recapturing this range here right now between 38 and 40.433. I also haven't looked at near in a while. Near's got some room to run as well. I'd be watching out for this zone here, supply zone. This is 285 would be the middle of that. But again, like I don't like to trade breakouts, the initial breakouts, and you can see why because of what Bitcoin is doing right now. I would rather have caught it somewhere down here. So it's kind of too late for near for me. But if it comes back up here, we'll set an alert here and see what happens if it gets there. See if it starts to come over and under here and starts to show some weakness. Lido keeps going up, huh? Lido has been doing really well also, but Lido is another one of those altcoins that I just wouldn't. I mean, look at these wicks. As soon as I see a wick like this, I'm out. I'm like, nope, I don't want to trade this because it could happen at any time in either direction. That's saved me a whole lot of times as a trader. So there's always more charts to look at. There's always other opportunities out there. So just always remember that. Keep that in the back of your mind. Even BNB, like I haven't been really interested in. It did come back up. Yeah, I'm not really interested in this, but if it comes back to, I'd be looking more for shorts than longs at this point for a lot of these. That's the gist of it. But if it comes back up to 337.5 and then starts to break down, but I think it's probably more likely that it does what it did here and it deviates again, maybe even comes a little higher this time, and then boom, back inside. There's a massive short trigger, right? All the way back down to maybe 260. Conservative target somewhere in the middle here, 288 or something like that. But I think this is just one big chop zone, right? Could easily deviate and start to get people really excited, get a lot of people long here around 350 and then back down inside again. So looking more for, I'll set an alert here again and we'll see what happens there. As these start to get closer to my levels of interest, then I'll move them over to my other list. So this is my red list. These are like potentials, right? That I'm like, I'll look at them. I might scroll through the charts from time to time, but I don't have any like serious interest in them. And then I have my main list, which is more compact. So I'm not having to dig through to find what's really important to me. 300 milliliter 10 pass is easier on the body than direct IV. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk to them about it and see. So one pass, probably not enough. I'm wondering if that still makes a difference. It's just the one pass versus the 10 pass. I'm also going to talk to some of my friends about it who have done it. Yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. That's it. I'm maxed out. When did I start? It's been over an hour. So, yeah, I want to see some resolution with Bitcoin though, and it's not giving it right now. We had the breakout in the beginning of the stream, and now 15 minutes left in this candle. I do not like this candle. I don't like this. It doesn't look very appetizing for a bull right now. More likely we get back inside, to be honest. Like that's my gut feeling. Of course, gut feelings aren't always right, but only time will tell. ETH, yeah, I think ETH will probably hold above 1600 though. But it might die down for the rest of the day till tomorrow. ES had a really strong move back up again. I was expecting it to come down further, and it didn't. And it just again, just pushing up. Still, just bulls are strong right now in stocks as well. But this is just one big chop zone. And so I'm perfectly content waiting to see if it gets back up to 41, 42, somewhere in here. And I'm perfectly happy waiting to see if what Bitcoin can do, if it can actually push up to 25K. And this is where patience really pays off. And maybe you only have one trade a week. Maybe you only have 2 trades a month, but those trades, you have such high conviction that it's okay to size up, you know. And of course, for me, when I talk about sizing up, I might only put 2 to 5% on the table, but it's more like 5% if I'm feeling like, you know, Bitcoin's at 25K and we get the breakdown from there, then I'll put 5% in. And then, you know, if maybe the stops are fairly tight and I can have 5, 10 or more R, and that's the whole month. That's a month of profit in trading, you know? So, but of course that takes patience and that takes precision, and that doesn't come right away for many traders. But you know, what is the biggest lesson in all this is when we're in a chop zone, just avoid it, because it's just not worth it. You just don't know. There's no clarity. The easy trades just jump out at you. There's just the most obvious trades will just jump out at you. If it's not jumping out at you, then don't take the trade. Right here, this is not jumping out at me what Bitcoin wants to do. Either way, I mean, this looks like a tower top to me, but anything can happen over the next 12 minutes. Anything can happen in the next hour after this. It's probably going to just die out here for a little bit, and we'll see. But this is probably going to head back down. If I had to guess, I'd say it heads back down to 22, somewhere at least to this weekly level here. Look at this now. Now it's selling out. This is crazy. Oh, here we go again. Okay, so now it's selling off. Now we're at 23, almost back to 23. This is why you don't jump into things right away. Let it settle. Let it settle. Ethereum is coming down now. Now we're below 1600. You see, you got to be prepared for this stuff. This is, yeah. I don't like this price action. These are liquidity games. They're playing around with it because they can. They won't always be able to do this, but yeah, it's unfortunate because it's definitely, this is how they steal money. And you know, if for those who haven't traded, you know, or haven't really been in this game for very long, they don't really understand. But when you've lost money during a dump like this after a pump, it's like we were just up 5% on the day, 6%. Now it's only less than 2%. And this just happened in a 5-minute candle. Now it's trying to push back up again. So I'm just going to sit back and drink my tea and see how this closes. Look at that. I mean, it came all the way back down to the mid, like in 5 minutes. So yeah, this is trickery. This is trickery. There's no way around this. Yeah, it's out of control. This is why I'm saying sit back and wait, sit back and watch. Because this is just the beginning, you know? I mean, this won't end until retail starts to really pour back in, and that could be sometime late 2023, 2024. This is not going to end, and even then it won't end. It's not going to end until the market cap of Bitcoin, you know, makes another 5 or 10x. You know, it's like it needs to do that because that's what's going to stabilize the price more. But these are whales taking advantage. This is not, you know, this is not normal. This is not a healthy organic movement, okay? And we see it we see it sometimes with stocks too and forex, but not like it's been for Bitcoin. It's always going to be more dramatic. This is always more of a risk on. Here we're breaking below 23. Yeah, I mean, you see why I wasn't just jumping on board with this, because you just never know what's going to happen. You never know. It needs to show some, uh, it needs to be balanced. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be, a stair stepping type movement. It needs to be gradual. It needs to be slow and steady. We take a look at the volume here. Pretty much pretty high volume on this. Volume, I don't really use volume though with trading anymore, because sometimes volume spread analysis can be helpful, but I'm just mostly focusing on the price because it tells me everything I need to know. The candles tell me everything that I need to know. Let's just see what happens. I'm just going to sit this out for the next 9 minutes or so. I feel like I mean, it could reject here and get back above. But either way, I mean, there's no clarity. There's no clarity in this. I think it could do this this happened before. So this is kind of a repeat, right? This is a repeat of what we saw. This happened a couple of times over here, but actually I was thinking somewhere down lower. Wasn't this? Seemed like it was just, maybe it was a couple weeks ago. Those candles where it just pushed up. It would push up so strong in that 5 or 10 minutes, and then they'd push it back the other way. And they're just playing with the ranges right now. And that's it's just a pretty obvious fake out right there. So most likely headed back down 22,450 now at this point, and a lot of the alts are going to completely reverse now. Let's see what Aptos is doing. Yeah, not much. It's just not budging much here. Still wants to push up. There's still the delusional retail is involved in this now. So this is going to defy the rest of the market. Optimism probably as well. Optimism, however, actually selling off more so back down in the range. But see, now it's like, well, it's kind of too late, but maybe it retests and then we get another breakdown. That's fine. That's a trigger, but I'm not going to get in on a big move down like that. That's not how I roll. Bitcoin now, we're struggling to hold 23K after 23,800 about 20 minutes ago. Oh, not maybe an hour ago, but yeah. Those of us that are going to survive this and stick this out, well, it's going to make you stronger and more patient, because at some point you have to realize, like, my level of patience is going to determine how successful I am as a trader and how much money I make. There's a direct correlation between how patient you are and how much money you either make or lose as a trader. Always remember that. Keep that at the front of your mind. Even as an investor, it's all about patience. You might, investors will wait months, years for an ideal setup, and then they will ride that for months and years. And so I'm saying right now, we're still not at that place where we're not at the sweet spot, the buy and go to the beach signal. It's not happening yet. Even though many people think that it already happened, that the bottom's already in, I'm saying don't be so certain, because look, even this is just a microcosm of what we can see. Someone was commenting the other day that crypto investors have a goldfish memory, and it's so true. It's like you forget everything that happened leading up to this. The whole move could reverse in a matter of a couple of days and come all the way back down again. It can happen in a couple of days. If this can happen in a couple of hours, then what can happen in a couple of days? This is where it's really helpful to just be detached and be neutral in all of it. So we're getting closer to the close now, and it's not really showing any signs that it wants to. This could actually, now this would be interesting, right? Because we haven't seen a major pullback here. So this could be leading into that pullback. This could be the swing fail pattern. If you look at this, it is sort of like a mini distribution. You could say this is the up thrust here. final upthrust, failed breakdown. Now it could actually push a lot lower. That's another scenario we've got to be prepared for. If it comes down here, struggles, I think I mentioned this earlier, but then what are we targeting down here? Well, this I might be taking a short here. And then I'd be targeting somewhere. I had targets for this already in my previous trade that I exited early, but we're looking at maybe 21,500, and then be looking down here about 2,300, 20,300. But then it could push even lower than that. And then we're looking at maybe 19, somewhere in the mid here, 19,500. Okay, that's not out of the question for Bitcoin. And that would actually probably liquidate a whole lot of longs here. A lot of them, I guarantee you, if you go and you look on exo charts and you look, for those of you that use that, read footprints, you'll see that P-shaped absorption where the buyers came in on this wick and then the sellers pushed it down. And that's a sign usually of more downside. So this could be leading to a bigger move to the downside. Because also, I mean, this is a pretty big, think about this. How many other red candles have you seen? Look at all the other red candles. I like to do this from time to time. When I see a big candle, I'll compare it to all the other candles around it. And you could say, well, look at this red candle. If it closes here, do you see another red candle in this entire move that was this big? I don't. Nope. Not even close. Not even close. Look at. This is the closest thing we have. So what does this mean? How do you translate that? It means that it could push a lot lower here. That's what it means to me. Usually that's a sign of weakness, right? In an uptrend. It's an initial sign of weakness. So this was the largest red candle we had before this. Yeah, a little more than half the size so far. We'll see what happens in the next 2 minutes, but it's a pretty big candle. Yeah, wondering if 19,500 comes before 25K. It could. Like, it could. That would be the ultimate fake out here. So I would be really watching this level, 22,450, because that would be, yeah, that would be the smartest move, maximum pain, right? If you think about it, a lot of people are long at this point. A lot of dumb money is long, and they probably got long somewhere between 19 and 20, 19 and 22, right? Some of them got long up here. Wipe them all out, scare them out, free up the liquidity, make room, and then push it back all the way back up again. That would make sense to me. And that's actually what I've been expecting or hoping for in the last couple of weeks, but it just hasn't happened yet. So not to say that it won't happen. Who knows? This week could be kind of wild. But I feel like it's going to happen soon. If it's going to happen, it needs to happen soon, because I feel like this entire move is going to finish by the FOMC. Yep, and then to 𝐬𝐬𝐧. I'm actually enjoying this because I'm enjoying the time that this has been happening, because I don't know if you've noticed, but my live, suddenly I'm getting more views. And it's like, well, there's more people that are interested, and so I'm happy if the price, it can chop around here for as long as it wants to. I'd rather it not go all the way back down, but I think that the highest, in all likelihood, it's headed back down eventually, but not without faking out a whole lot of people along the way. And so in order to do that, this is why I was saying, about a week ago, this doesn't really make sense. It seems it's a little bit it's a lot overextended. It's too clean. It's not messy enough. Now it could pull all the way back down. This is where when we were here, I was saying, it should pull back to 18,600 or so. So it could, there's no clearly defined rules in a range here, okay? So it could pull all the way back down to 18,600 and then it gets back above 20K. But even here would be a potential long trigger. And then it could push all the way back up and hit these levels once again and then maybe exceed them. And this could happen in a matter of in a week. It could happen. And it's just you need to be prepared for that scenario. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna actually, okay, so we just had the weekly, or sorry, not the daily, the hourly close, and that looks very bearish to me. I'm not in a position where I would want to long this for sure. I would actually, if it gets back below the weekly here, I'd be really on the lookout for shorts for Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, and maybe for some of the alts. But my focus right now is back to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Just be careful out there because this could chop around for a bit, but once it really settles, we'll have some more clarity, and I'll be sharing a lot more in the C3 group. So if you haven't joined the C3, then you want to do that. So I hope that you enjoyed this stream, and I am about to hop off here and maybe get some juice. So have a beautiful rest of your day.